everyone, my name's Brittany from Brittany Loves Reading, and it's time to start my June wrap-up vlog. Throughout the month, I'll take you along as I finish books, and I'll tell you what I liked about them, what I didn't like about them, my star rating, and how I'm using them for readathons. This month, I'm only working on one readathon. That's going to be the Amazing Readathon. I am a co-host with Zoe for Team Sci-fi, and I need to focus on that. That readathon, there's a lot going on, and I know my brain can only hold space for that. I do also have my TBR game, Timmy's TBR, so I'll tell you how I filled those prompts as well, because I'm hoping to read as many of those as possible because the game was kind of mean. It gave me a lot of books. I think I have like a 13 book, 14 book TBR. It's very large. Hopefully I can use those to like cover the Amazing Readathon prompts. And so far it's been going quite well. Today is actually June 10th because I tend to not update for vlog books except all in one chunk, because if you really want my in-deep thoughts, you can go over to the vlog and hear all of those. So I wrap up vlogs as like one big chunk. So as of this moment, I have finished 3 rounds of the Amazing Readathon, and I am going to let you know what I did for those and how they kind of went. The first book I read this month was The Blood Trials. I really liked this book. It had a really interesting premise, and I've already got book 2 coming in because I need to finish out this duology. I need to know what happens. In this book, we follow Akina, and Akina is taking a year off from joining the military of this realm because her grandfather, who was a general, has died. And it's her last remaining surviving family member, and she's really having a rough time with his death. Come to find out, he might have been murdered. So she actually decides not to take the year off and decides to go into the military, into the trials, to actually become a full military member in order to find out who murdered her father and unearth all these secrets that are currently going on. One thing nobody knows, only her and her grandfather knew, was that she actually has blood magic. This magic is actually forbidden in this current political situation. If anyone found out she had it, it would be a big, big problem. So she is keeping it a secret. And because it's forbidden, she doesn't really know everything about her magic and is really trying to figure it out as she goes along. There's found family. These trials are super, super brutal. So keep that in mind. This is definitely adult. It's very, very brutal. But I did love that because it really gave it super high stakes. There's so much going on in this book. 4 stars. I really loved it, and I can't wait to continue on. For Timmy's TBR, I had this on for a POC author. And for the Amazing Readathon, I ended up using this to get to Toronto for a book that I did not purchase, as this is a library book. This one I'm not going to talk about very long because I did end up DNFing this, but it wouldn't make sense of how I got to the Tar City without talking about it. So for this book, I ended up getting to the 51% mark so that I could DNF it. I am currently a host for the read along for the Chestnut Spring series. This is the 3rd book. I thought the first one was just okay. I loved the second one, and I have now DNF'd the 3rd. So I am very up in the air on this series, but I am going to continue and be a part of the live show for the part that I did read. I did not like these characters. I did not like this book structure. I did not like how it was written. There was a lot of things I did not like about this book. They really hit home that these 2 characters, Jasper and Sloane, are surrogate cousins, and the amount of time it's talked about in this book made me very uncomfortable. I did not like how the flashback scenes were written, and I just did not care about these characters, and once they got together, I felt even more uncomfortable, and I just was done. This was on Timmy's TBR, though, for a book set in Canada, so a DNF still counts for that, and I did get to the 51% to count this for Tar to get to Buenos Aires with a book with 2 POVs. Lastly, I read Leviathan Wakes. This book I have on my Kindle, and I ended up reading this for the last leg that I've done for Tar. This book follows Miller and Holden. Miller is a detective who is now tasked with finding Julia. Julia's family wants her to come home. She went out on a space exhibition, and they now need her to come home because there's a war happening. Holden and his crew are currently mining ice from Saturn's rings to bring back for water when they discover something they definitely should have. The galaxies go into war, and we follow them trying to figure out who actually started this war. There's a lot of conspiracies happening, and we figure out what actually everyone is fighting over. I really liked Holden's perspective because he was with a crew of characters, and in his perspective, we had like an ensemble. Miller's, I liked sometimes, other times I could have done without it. I kind of hummed and hawed over a rating, but I did end up deciding on a 4-star rating for this book. For Timmy's TBR, this filled the prompt of author with a pen name. And for the Amazing Readathon, it did get me to Berlin for a book with a movement in the title. I used Wakes for this. So I finished 2 sightseeing books since I last talked to you, so let's dive into those. The first one I did not mean to read as early in the month as I did. I was thinking about holding this for Faceoff weekend, but then I ended up on sprints and Leandra was reading this, so we decided to do kind of an impromptu buddy read. Leandra, what are you up to?
Well, I'm in Buenos Aires, so I'm sightseeing now, and I am, at least for this first sprint, I'm gonna start Cat Plus Gamer Volume 3 because I am so excited.
Leandra, I have that upstairs.
Brittany, you might need to join me. I mean, I'm on Volume 3, and I'm so excited.
I'm on Volume 3.
We should do a buddy read together. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
look, everyone, look at this, the back. It's so cute.
Never mind what I'm doing in the first sprint. I've changed my mind. And that is Cat Plus Gamer Volume 3. I love this manga, gave it 4 stars, love this series, really want to read more of them. They are so, so cute. This follows a gamer. She loves to game. She loves to do video games. She's an office worker by day, really serious gamer by night. One day while she's in her office, they find a kitten in the parking lot and she decides to take this kitten home. And she takes the job of looking after a kitten and learning about a kitten and learning about what cats need or want like a video game and like leveling up her cat. It is so wholesome and so cute. And after every chapter, you actually have a chapter from the cat's perspective because you see like how the cat took an instance very differently and kind of saw it with very different, ideas in mind. 4 stars, really loved it. And for the amazing readathon, I used this for sightseeing, obviously. And I used it for the prompt of a book with under 1,000 ratings. This one, at the time of me reading it, was about 950 ratings. Then I read the sequel to one of my host favorites, which was Psalm for the Wild Bil. I really wanted to get to this over the course of Amazing Readathon as well, and I have now done so. This was also a 5-star read for me, and I actually think I liked it more than A Psalm for the Wild Bil, which is insane because I adored A Psalm for the Wild Bil. In the first book, Dex explores the wilderness with Mosscap. In this book, Mosscap comes into the city with Dex and starts to kind of figure out what humans actually need, which is why Mosscap left the woods in the first place. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful book. I cried. It's so heartwarming. I adore this series. I adore Becky Chambers' writing. I need to read more of Becky Chambers. This is probably going to be one of my best books of the year. I cannot foresee it not making that list. 5 stars, can't say enough about it. Please pick these up. You will love these. For the Amazing Readathon, again, I use this for sightseeing and for the prompt of 5 vowels on the cover. It was hard to find the U, but they do say the word, the Hugo winning award on here, so there is a U, and I got it done. So I was just working on editing this wrap up when I realized that I never filmed a wrap up vlog clip for the Faceoff vlog. Faceoff was a couple of weekends ago by the time I'm filming this, so I'm going to try to remember my kind of thoughts at the time, but there is a vlog of this if you want to see me actually updating the books when I read them. I think what happened is after this video happened, we were U-turned and I kept having to read instead of remembering to film this clip. Anyway, no big deal. I still have all the books. I have most of the thoughts in my head. So we'll just dive into what I thought of the books that I read over Faceoff weekend. These were all very small. I read 9 books over one weekend. So I'm not going to give too in-depth thoughts on any of these because I read them very, very quickly and they were all very small. So over the weekend, I read 5 volumes of I'm a Koi. This is a host favorite. I believe it's Heather's host favorite. I'm pretty sure it might be Izzy's. But I read the first 5 volumes. This follows 2 high school students. They meet on the bus. He protects her from like a mob and they end up going into a relationship. They are so cute. It's so adorable. They made me just want to squeal, and I really enjoyed reading these mangas, and I gave all of them 4 stars. I already have more over there ready for me to pick up and read really soon, so I will definitely be continuing with this series over the next few months. Then I also read Mooncakes, which is a graphic novel. This graphic novel was super, super cute. I loved this graphic novel so much. This follows a werewolf and a witch, and they have to get rid of a demon that's in the woods around their community. Tam and Nova actually grew up together, but Tam moved away many years ago. Tam is our werewolf and is also a non-binary character. Nova is living with her grandmothers when Tam comes back and they start to work on getting rid of this demon, and they also start a relationship. Nova also has a hearing aid, so there's also some deaf representation as well. Really love seeing representation in a graphic novel. 4 stars. During the weekend, I also read 3 books that were on my Kindle, one of those being Artificial Condition by Martha Wells. This is the second book in the Murderbot series. Unfortunately, this was just okay for me. There was something about it that just hindered me from sinking into the story and really diving in and enjoying it, and I ended up giving it 3 stars. The 2 highlights of my weekend, though, were the other 2 novellas I read on my Kindle. The first one being Below Zero by Ali Hazelwood. I really enjoyed this Ali Hazelwood novella. It follows 2 characters who met years ago and had a brief hookup, and for various reasons did not get together. Ian wanted a relationship. Sadie really didn't, so they did not get together. Sadie just kind of wanted a casual time, and Ian knew that wasn't what he wanted. So they've been, cordial to each other when they see each other in between. There was really no bad blood between them. But then she goes away to, I think, Norway to do a research project and gets stuck in a crevasse. And he saves her from the crevasse and they start being together. They were so cute and adorable.
Ian.
5 stars just for Ian. I did give this 5 stars, by the way. And it was really the character work that made it so. Then I read The Exception to the Rule by Christina Lauren. This was another little novella. In this, we follow Callum and Tara. They meet 10 years prior on Valentine's Day, but not in person, but through email. Callum thinks he's emailing a teacher about an assignment. He really accidentally used the wrong email and emails Tara, who is a student. Their emails don't have their names. They're very kind of not specific, so they don't know who each other is at the school. They talk for a couple of back and forth emails on Valentine's Day and then do not reconnect until a year later when one of them just says, Happy Valentine's Day. They do this for the next 10 years, writing to each other, not giving each other specifics, and just on Valentine's Day. Eventually, they do meet, and I really just found this back and forth, you got mail situation really cute. I love a mixed media book, and that was also done really well. And I also gave this 5 stars. So the novellas over Faceoff weekend, the romance novellas were winning over Faceoff weekend. So for the last 2 weeks, I have been working on my second TAR vlog, and I have finally finished the books that are in that and the legs, and I'm finally caught up on the Amazing Readathon. I got a bit behind. Not gonna lie, I actually got quite behind, but I am caught up now, and I am going to talk to you about books that I've read over the last 2 weeks. Which, might I add, some of them I read 2 weeks ago, so my remembrance of the details is starting to leave me, but we're gonna get through it anyway. If you wanna know my in-depth thoughts, there is a vlog for it. So the first book I read was In a Kindness of Ghosts by River Solomon. This book was a trust the process book. For the first part of this book, I had very little idea of exactly what was going on. I was interested in the characters and what was going on in the characters' lives, but the setting and this society, it lacked the detail for me to fully picture it in my head. As we went through the book, I got those details mostly. I still think there's probably some things I didn't, but I got, most of the ideas as we went. And to be able to write a book like that, where you give us bits and pieces that explain things that happen chapters and chapters later, is so different and also so hard to write that way. So I applaud the author for being able to write a book like that. And I really did find this book fascinating, and I had so many emotions with this book. This book covers a lot of hard topics in this society. They are extremely racist. There's a lot of classism. There's a lot of oppression in this book. And it was really hard to read at times, but you were just rooting for these characters and you were wanting them to somehow overcome all the things that were bearing down on them. I ended up giving this 4 stars only because I was confused for so much of the first part. I think it could have got 5 had I been able to really sink my teeth into the entirety of the book. I think on reread, it very well could. For the Amazing Readathon, I used this to get to Paris for a book that has won an award. For Timmy's TBR, this was on the TBR for a POC author. Then I read Thread Needle by Carly Thomas. This book follows a teenage girl, Anna, as she discovers magic in London and her own magic. Her aunt actually has always warned her against magic, and we find out that her aunt is actually extremely abusive to her. And we find out what kind of is the root of why the aunt is believing what she believes. We see Anna make some friends. There's a lot of found family in this book with her schoolmates and also with the magical community as a whole as she meets other adult witches who kind of help her move forward in her witchy world. There's also a lot of witchy mysteries going on here, and a lot of them I didn't find out the conclusion of in this book. There is a novella in a second book that just recently came out, and I'm excited to continue on with this series and find out what really is going on here. This book is definitely YA, and that part I did not love because I'm not the target demographic, but the witchy part I did really like, so I ended up giving this 4 stars. This was on Timmy's TBR for a book over 500 pages, and I used it for the Amazing Readathon for my Cape Town read of a light source on the cover with this moon. Then I finally finished The Shadow Rising by Robert Jordan. This is the 4th book in the Wheel of Time series. I have liked books in this series in the past. The 3rd book I gave 5 stars. This one was a drag for me. I'm sure it's setting up a lot of things that are to come in later books, but because I didn't understand the imagery and I didn't really know what it was foreshadowing, because obviously I can't see that, the book in of itself was quite a slog to get through. I ended up only giving it 2.5 stars. I do really want to continue with this series, but I need the next book to hopefully pick up a little bit in the pacing and the plot. For this one, I used this for Timmy's TBR for a fantasy book. And for the Amazing Readathon, this was my Antananarivo book for a book with religion. There's a lot of fictional religions in the Wheel of Time, so this was perfect, and I needed to get this done anyway for the read-along. I then finished off The Familiar. This book I was really highly anticipating, and unfortunately it did not live up to my expectations. I love Ninth House and Hellbent. Those are more my style though. They are dark academia books. This is historical fantasy. Historical fantasy would not be a genre that I would naturally gravitate towards. I definitely was still leaning on it being a Leigh Bardugo book. And it did have Leigh Bardugo's writing style, which was the part of the book that I liked. There were certain sentences that just would grab my attention, but the actual story really focused on the history of the Spanish Inquisition, and that did not captivate me as much as I would have liked. I ended up giving this 3.5 stars, and for Timmy's, this was on for a free space or mood read. And for the Amazing Readathon, I used this for my Antananarivo U-turn because Team Sci-fi was U-turned. This was the last book I read for this vlog, so that's the last book I read. I ended up doing the fast forward for the next leg, which was Soul. I was quite behind and I really just needed to get caught up, and I had the GRC, so that's what I did. So you won't see that in a vlog, and I'm currently reading for Bangkok. And I am now caught up on the race. I really wanted to get caught up and get back on track. I got a little bit behind with The Shadow Rising and the U-turn. So now I'm back on track and ready to keep going with that vlog. And I will talk to you once I finish those cities. So last week was the final week of Tar in my final Tar vlog. So I have finished that vlog, and now it's time to wrap up the entire month of June. Before I get into what I read during the vlog though, I actually read one more sightseeing book that I haven't told you about. I read it in the middle of doing that vlog, and that was Under One Roof by Ali Hazelwood. And I already forget the name of these 2 characters, but it was cute. I gave it 4 stars. Our main female protagonist has a mentor who passes away and leaves her half of her house. She only owns half of the house. Her other half of the house is owned by her nephew, and she doesn't know this until after this mentor passes away. They do end up sharing the house, and at first they do not get along, but they do start to have feelings for each other as we go through the novella. And it was really cute, 4 stars, and got the last Ali Hazelwood novella done that I needed to read. Now turning to the vlog, I finished the last 3 legs of the Amazing Readathon. The first book I read was The Princess Trap by Talia Hibbert. This is a really cute rom-com. It was really fast to read. I really enjoyed it, and it follows a prince and an administrative assistant at an academy. He runs some sort of thing with children and is looking into working with the academy for his scholarship program. She is at the school doing her HR work when Ruben walks in and he sees Cherry, and immediately they find themselves some sexual chemistry. Ruben asks to take her out on a date. They do. And on the way back to Cherry's house, they can't even wait to get inside when they start making out on the street. A paparazzi sees them and starts taking their picture, and Ruben tells the paparazzi that Cherry is his fiance to kind of mitigate the drama that would ensue from these pictures. Cherry finds out that Ruben is a prince during this ordeal, and they do start a fake engagement, fake relationship. This was on Timmy's since April for an author with TH as their initials. I also used this obviously for the Amazing Readathon in getting to Bangkok. Then I read Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. I am trying to get through Ali Hazelwood's books, if you haven't noticed by the amount of them I've read during the Amazing Readathon. This one I liked. It's not my favorite. It's not my least favorite. It came out somewhere in the middle, and I also gave it 4 stars. This one follows Elsie. Elsie has type 1 diabetes, and that is definitely a main plot point of this book because she is trying to get a better job that has health insurance. She currently is an adjunct professor, and that does not come with health insurance. It comes with crazy hours and not a lot of money. So on the side, she works as a fake girlfriend for an app called Faux. One of her favorite clients is Greg, and she often is Greg's fake girlfriend. Greg has a brother named Jack that Elsie and Jack just have never seemed to get along. And when Elsie finally gets an opportunity to try and get a job at MIT, she has to interview, and who is on the interview committee but Jack? Jack is kind of like, what is going on? Because he didn't even know she was a physics professor because he thought she was this fake girlfriend and is wondering if she's lying. He finds out that she's actually a theoretical physicist. He's an experimental physicist, and they don't get along for those reasons as well. So there's definitely an enemies to lovers type thing going on. Elsie is a super, super, super big people pleaser. And that was the part of the book that I enjoyed the most and related to the most. As someone who is also a people pleaser, I did really relate to Elsie a lot. For the Amazing Readathon, this got me to Auckland. I do realize this does not fill the prompt. We had an express pass for Team Sci-fi, so that's what I use this for. Lastly, I read A Big Ship at the Edge of the Universe by Alex White. I actually only read 51% of this and ended up DNFing this. There was a lot of reasons that I DNF'd this book, the writing style, the characters, but mostly the world building. The world building is so lacking in this book that it actually would make it hard for me to even tell you the synopsis of this book. Other than the fact that they're looking for this ship, there's magic that I didn't understand. There's technology that was never explained. It was really confusing because there was just no world building. Again, I only made it to page 226, and the only reason I got that far was so that I could count it for the Amazing Readathon. This was actually on my July Timmy's TBR. I thought I'd get a little bit of a head start on my July TBR because I kind of figured this would roll into July. It obviously didn't, but only because I DNF'd it. But for Timmy's, this was on for a book with the word big in the title. And for the Amazing Readathon, this got me to Los Angeles and to the end of the Amazing Readathon. But that is the end of the month of June. In June, I ended up reading 20 books during TAR. A lot of those were during Faceoff weekend. And over that time, I read 5,986 pages. My best book of the month, easy to choose. Easy because it's going to be on my best books of the year, and that is A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers. I love this series with my whole heart. I've talked about nothing else since I read this. I think it's been in like 3 videos, and I only read this like 3 weeks ago. I love this book. My worst book of the month was my lowest rated book at a 2.5 star, and that was The Shadow Rising by Robert Jordan. This is definitely my least favorite book in the Wheel of Time, and I really hope it picks up next month when I read the 5th book. But that is the end of my vlog style wrap up, going through the entire month of the Amazing Readathon. How did the month of June go for you? Let me know down in the comments down below. I can't wait to hear about how it went. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.